believe it or not.
Oh, Phil. Okay, we're live now, so don't say anything crazy.
Okay.
Welcome to the Practical Pistol Show. My name is Ben Steger. We're here to answer shooting questions. We got Hopkins, as always. Say hi,
Yes.
Matt.
Hi.
God, I love the energy. And this guy, Phil Strader, who is single stack national champion. I bet you didn't think I was going to roll that out, Phil.
No, that's coming right out of the gate. That's coming out hot.
Yeah? Come on, you gotta, mad props, right?
Well,
Some RO said it best. He said, Phil's been 5 minutes away from winning a Nationals for 15 years.
yeah, that's definitely an accurate statement. I would think I've been close for a long time, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. It just I got there late, and it was just like it was going to be another freaking Nationals. I forgot some targets. It was a mess. The first stage was a total nightmare, but just shot the next stage okay, and I was right there with everyone else. And I said, well, heck, I'll just keep doing that. And it worked out. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I did really well in the top part of the range, and then we got down to the standards, and all the mistakes I made from there didn't matter because I had done so well at the top.
So we can expect you to defend your title next year.
Yes, I will. Well,
how
if I can afford to. I may not have a sponsor next year, so I don't know. We'll see.
What?
Yeah, I've turned down all the sponsorships for the last 4 years as president, so I've been shooting basically without a sponsor. But at the end of the year, now I'm gonna have to start hunting again, and winning one national championship does not a sponsorship make, unless I shoot a free gun and Then
what are you talking about?
It's pretty good, dude.
One national championship. I haven't had to pay for anything since. And after winning two, after you get two, then you get a Learjet. Just flies you around anywhere you want to go.
I've already got that. USPSA already bought me 2 jets. That's what everyone thinks. So I'll perpetuate the.
Perpetuate the myth. Okay, Phil, you're here to talk about being president of USPSA because I think a lot of people, myself included, don't really understand a whole lot about how the organization works, what the hell goes on the board, because like we get these minutes and then I read that, I'm like, I don't know what this means. Like,
right.
There's a bunch of bullet points in there, but I don't get it. And then kind of Nationals happens, the same as always, and everything seems more or less okay, and then the website never changes, so a lot of people, again, me included, want to get an inside track for how the organization functions, and who better to talk to than you?
Right, I agree. Well, and it's not as complicated as everyone seems to make it sound online. It's actually quite simple. Basically 9 people run the organization, me and 8 other board members. My job as president is to oversee the board, to basically call the meetings to order. I kind of equate it to like a ship. I steer it in a general direction. The board maintains that course and heading, and the HQ people, they're the people that kind of make everything happen behind the scenes. They keep the engines running and that kind of thing. But it's pretty simple. The job of the president is a bit more complicated in that I'm elected for 4 years. It's a paid position, although it's not seriously compensated for the job that it entails. Still a compensated position, and I will be the only one-term president in USPSA history. But it's not that difficult. The thing with being the president is not only do you have to maintain board direction and you have to set up the meetings and you kind of have to you don't really dictate the agenda, but you start moving the agenda in a certain direction. You try to get input from the board members the best you can, but sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm also the regional director for IPSC.
Yes.
So anything that happens overseas, if someone needs an endorsement letter to go overseas, if we have teams that go into a match, like right now we've got the Shotgun World Shoot coming up, I have to orchestrate all of the registration and the pictures and the import permits and that kind of thing. So that's another responsibility. So it's a lot going on. But as far as the organization goes, as far as the overall working in the organization, it's challenging in that the board is. Here's the challenges. It's challenging that the board is always being elected. There's always turnover. It's kind of hard to make a lot of things stick and make a lot of decisions. And here's the thing: when I first came on as a board member, as Area 4 director, the board was, they were torn here and there, and they weren't exactly what you would call organized. And
when was this?
This was 2010, I think, is when I got into Area 4. Yeah, I did 2010 because I did 2 years, and I didn't finish.
It sound like a prison sentence.
Say again?
It could sound like a prison sentence. Yeah, I did a 2-year bit.
I did a 2-year deal, and I got out on good behavior, and then I got elected president. But anyway, the thing is, it's so fluid. It's always changing. So you might get a good head of steam rolling with a certain board, and all of a sudden, 3 board members may change, and it's a totally different dynamic. We saw that a lot last year or 2 years ago when we had some board members came in that they didn't approve of the way the organization was going. They didn't like it, and then
we're going to talk about all this.
Yeah,
we'll get into some detail.
But you understand what I'm saying is the dynamics always change. So it's really kind of hard to keep the ship steered on course when everything changes every 2 years, or a board member quits and gets replaced, and it's a lot of dynamic to deal with.
Okay, so let's talk about the big picture, like the organization as a whole, like how many members there are, how many matches there are. When people talk about the sport growing, what kind of shape was the organization in when you came in?
When I came in, there was just over 20,000 members.
Okay.
And I think there were 380 clubs or 370 clubs. I don't remember the exact numbers, but in the 4 years I've been there, the membership has grown to almost 25,000. I think it's 24,700 and change. The number of local clubs is over 400, well over 400. The biggest increase has actually been range officers. We've seen more people get certified ROs and CRO classes. That's quadrupled since I came on. I don't know if I didn't have anything to do with that, but that's the organization is healthier than it was as far as numbers.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, having 5,000 more members in a pretty small organization. I think a lot of it can be attributed to the political climate. We went through that year or so where everyone was kind of scared the whole gun grabbing thing was going to happen again. And typically the more negative things turn for gun owners and gun right activists, the more active they become. So, ARs were selling for $600 AR were selling for $1,500, and people wanted to become more active in whatever organization. I mean, the NRA's membership spiked up there for a while. And I think we kind of enjoyed some of that residual panic factor of people, wondering what the hell was going on with their gun rights. But also, I think we're making more of a social splash on media. I mean, you can't get on freaking Facebook or any of these other sites without some guy videotaping himself shooting a stage and, hey, this is me at match XYZ. Look how awful I am, or whatever, or look how good I am, when they may not be. But the point is, there are people out there who videotape. They're just trying to be as good as Phil.
And they freaking love videotaping themselves, and and that's cool, and that might help because people they see that and they say, wow, that looks pretty neat, and it might even help that they like doing it because they say, hey, that's really neat, and that person sucks. I know I can do better than that, so I'm gonna go try it out and see what it is. So, I mean, you can't have superstars on there all the time, but although it looks kind of cool, but I think more and more people are posting videos, the word's getting out, and it's just kind of the age we live in that everyone wants to be a star, and they're all posting these videos, and we're getting some membership out of it, I think. And not to mention, I did I don't know exactly how many new memberships we got, but I did that. I tried to organize that Friends of Remington or Friends of USPSA Remington program, and
yes,
according to headquarters, membership spiked on that. I'm trying to get a similar deal with some other gun companies, but it's easier dealing with Remington since I worked there. It was an easy plan to get going.
You can go in there and be like, hey guys, I got this great idea.
Dude, I can actually talk about that a little bit. I think that'd be a great idea, and if it was presented to the company I work for, we'd probably go for it.
Well, who would I talk to? No, we'll talk about that later. But yes, I would like to do that because CZ would be the perfect fit for it. And the thing is now that, not to go too much into what I do on the other side of the fence with Remington, but typically the gun industry right now has been in a position where now that this gun scare is over from the consumer side, there's a lot of stuff sitting in inventory. We have huge orders canceled, and all of a sudden we're sitting on 50,000 guns looking around going, well, now what do we do with this? So there's other gun companies in that boat. So
I think that's the whole industry not right now, yes?
Right. Yeah, it is. It's to a certain degree it is. I mean, there are some things out there that everyone's buying. I mean, you can't find a SIG brace these days or 22 ammo, but you get the point. Stupid 22 ammo.
Okay, Phil. So
we got off track there. So sorry.
No, we didn't.
We got off track a lot.
That's the kind of stuff that people want to know about.
Yeah. I mean, from an organizational standpoint, people want to know how USPSA is doing, and there's been a lot of stuff on the internet, all the controversy. I'm sure we'll get into that. But
yes,
from a standpoint of where this organization was when I got here, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus for the job they did, but when I got here, everyone was kind of loving everyone was loving what was going on because there was not a lot of responsibility put on the board. Dave Thomas, God rest his soul, he did everything. He was the go-to guy.
That was the former executive director, yes, for people who don't know.
But as it turns out, there were a lot of things Dave was doing that wasn't kosher, especially like on the accounting side of things. Not he wasn't doing it illegally or intentionally. It was just it was being done wrong, and no one really realized it until we.
He wasn't doing anything unscrupulous, is what you're saying.
No, of course not. No, he would never do that. But that was 20 years in that position, and 20 years of doing things incorrectly on an accounting standpoint catches up. So, in Kim's defense, she's taking a lot of heat, but she was given a big pile of dookie, and she's having to, or duty in this case, she's having to turn all that around and try to revamp everything. So now I can honestly say, and there's no one on the board I don't think that would disagree with me, we are in a better place from an accounting standpoint. As far as like if we got audited tomorrow, I feel a hell of a lot better now where we are than we were 3.5 years ago. Because 3.5 years we just didn't know, but now we're getting all this stuff, pouring out on us and going, well, wait, what if this happens? And we're in a position now to where we're like, crap, we've been doing it wrong for how long? And then we had to kind of redo everything. So I think we're in a place now to where we're in a better position financially from an accounting standpoint, from an auditing standpoint. It's just taking some time to do that turnover.
Okay, and I guess before we get into the real specific nitty-gritty stuff, what would you say surprised you most about the day-to-day of being president? So you ran for the job, and I'm sure you had some idea in your brain of what that would entail. What surprised you?
Well, freaking emails surprised me. I get about 250 emails a day. So that was not awesome. But the big thing that surprised me is I didn't, I'd run matches before. I'd put together shooting events before.
You started the new Pro-Am. You resurrected that.
I did. So I kind of had that background. I knew how to run a match right, and I had these, starry-eyed visions of me putting together the nationals and doing it exactly the way I wanted to do it, and it turned out to be a hell of a lot more complicated than that.
Now, I don't want to be out of turn with this, but I remember before you went in, or as you were going in, kind of your brainchild was a separate nationals for every division, which that hasn't happened every year, but it's been more pushed that direction than a big combined event.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a shooter. It's no secret, and I like to shoot against the best. I don't skirt divisions. I don't skirt shooters. When I go to a match, I want to know that I'm shooting against everyone, the very best of everyone. And for World Shoot selection, it worked out right? Because if the more nationals you have, the more opportunities a shooter's going to be able to have to try out for different teams. I mean, theoretically, if you do well enough, you could make 2 teams in 2 different divisions if you shoot enough and you're good enough. But be that as it may, I've just always been a very I've always thought very linearly about having one big match for one division and make it work. And the back-to-back format, what we used to have, it worked out pretty good. We had open and then limited 10, or open and limited. And then when L10 and production came along, it complicated things. And when single stack came along, it wasn't as complicated because the single stack classic just kind of morphed into the single stack nationals. But yeah, that's always been a goal of mine. And for the most part, I mean, it's hard on the staff, but for the most part, we've been pretty successful. I mean, single stack nationals, what they have, 450 shooters. Production nationals, I think they had almost 400.
I mean, this last production nationals was about, it's about the most competitive event that I can remember seeing.
Oh, that's probably the most elite group of shooters. I wish Savigny could have been there. I wish Rafael could have been there. I mean, I don't think any of us, and the rest of us probably don't wish Eric could be there. But
I wish Eric would be there. I'll shoot against
Eric. I love it.
Trot them all out. Let's shoot against all of them.
Yeah, but yeah, that was an amazing field of shooters, and that's when I saw that, and I was looking at this. When I saw the super squad, I was like, man, that's a good group of guys. And then all of a sudden, I said, well, shit, Rob, I'm going to shoot it. Robbie's going to shoot it. I used to be someone in production. Vogel's going to shoot it. Nils said he wanted to shoot it. All these top tier guys are coming to me saying, hey, we want to shoot too. And then all of a sudden, we've got literally 15 guys in the match who could win if they put together the right match. And you didn't show up. No, you shot good, and I wish I could have been there to watch it. I hated not being there. But
it wasn't all that impressive.
Well, yeah, I saw some of the guys I was shooting with, and they were killing it. So it was pretty impressive to watch.
I don't look cool when I shoot. That's my main problem.
Yeah, I look like a wounded antelope when
I liked your unload on the steel stage. I think I caught that on live shots. It was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was I don't know what I was thinking on that one. That was a total.
I have a pretty good idea what you were thinking.
Yeah, I know what I was thinking after that. A bar and some whiskey or something.
That was like the funniest unload I've ever seen.
Dude, that's the worst handgun nationals finish I've had in the 21st century. I mean, it was horrific. I felt like hiding under a rock and shooting myself. It was horrible.
Jeez.
No. I mean that figuratively, of course. People don't go out there and shoot yourselves because I said so.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so we're talking about nationals format. So anyway, you feel like trying to split up the divisions as much as possible, that's worked out.
It has, and we've had Passive Park has come on board to help kind of facilitate the production nationals. I think they did a pretty good job. I've heard good things. I've heard a couple bad, but all in all, they did such a hell of a good job with the revolver and single stack nationals that it was pretty much a no-brainer. And of course, open and limited, that will always be that will typically be a back-to-back match anyway. L10 just kind of shoved in there with open. L10, that's an animal all in and
Let's talk about that. Is that an animal you're looking to get rid of, or you would have liked to get rid of?
My first motion, when I became an Area 4 director, my very first motion I made in the board meeting was to remove limited 10.
How does that not have more traction?
Well, there's a lot of. We'll understand. Back when I got on the board, there was production, and I think single stack was out by then too. But there's basically a 10-round division, a division that took guns that could hold more than 10 and reduced their capacity to 10. So I think people were kind of nervous, like, well, where do the people who are shooting L10 go, or what do we do about California and New Jersey and New York and all these other states with 10-round limitations? I think there's always been that concern. For me, I was just basically, let the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, there are more people shooting limited and open in these restricted states than there are people who shoot L10. But I mean, from a politically safe standpoint, I think that was always kind of a scary thing for the board to just jump on and do. But now, I mean, this is me talking as Phil, not
right. This is just Phil.
This is me talking, but now that Carry Optics is starting to get this kind of attention, which I'm sure we'll talk about that later, if that picks up and that becomes popular, and as popular as I think it will be, then that gives us more ammunition to kind of say, okay, look, we've got 2 divisions that we've reduced the capacity to 10 rounds. We've given 2 places for people to play. Why do we need L10 again? Like, what's that for? So I would like to see L10 go away. I've been trying to move in that direction, but I would feel a hell of a lot more comfortable now doing it if there's another 10-round division out there that they could go play in, or people with 10-round capacity could go. But will the board do it? I mean, that's the thing. You just never know. It's just hard to say. Yeah, I think a lot of it will seriously depend on what happens with Carry Optics.
Okay. Before we get into the questions that people wanted asked, I want to ask about kind of the drama going on with the board last year, where you had, I mean, you alluded to this earlier with, I think it was Jay and Chuck were on the board looking to make serious changes, and they both ended up, if I heard the story right, they ended up rage quitting in the middle of a meeting. Yes?
Yes.
None of us were there, right? So what the hell happened? Like, what was...
Look, I don't have anything against Chuck or Jay, although I don't know if that's the other way, or I don't know if they feel the same way.
I'll tell you, based on Chuck's posts, like he spent a year trashing you on the internet.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, as long as you don't say anything bad about my kids or assault my wife or insult my wife, I don't care. That internet, I'm constantly under attack. In this position, that's one thing that, going back to your previous question, what things about the president do you not expect? They get just berated on numerous internet sites, not just yours or whatever. That was kind of a surprise. But I've got thick skin, and that's why I didn't take the job to be offended. I'm not offended. And Chuck and Jay, it's not like they didn't bring up valid points. I mean, the kind of everything that where all this kind of started is when Kim was hired as executive director, there were other people who had some qualifications to do the job, and I think from the start there were people on the board. Chuck is one of them who just didn't want her there. They didn't trust her. They didn't like her for whatever reason.
Okay, so this was when, like 2011 or 2012?
December of 2012.
2012. 2012, at the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. I did a year with Dave as executive director for the most part. And be that as it may, here's the thing: is there are going to be things that happen on the board, and there are going to be decisions made on the board that board members won't like. But you know what? Suck it up. I mean, that's just the way it is. You can't get personal. You can't take things personal. You can't get emotional about decisions that are being made. The board members are supposed to act for the better, for the best interest of USPSA and its members. That's just the way it is. And if something doesn't go the way you want it to go, you can't get upset. You can't throw a temper tantrum and take your ball and go home. It doesn't work that way. And I knew that. I mean, hell, I made a motion at the last meeting. I was trying to just come with a across-the-board weight limit for production and make it easy for everyone, and it got voted down. And was I happy about it? No, I didn't understand what the logic was to vote that down, but I didn't get upset about it, and I moved on. And
that was the overall weight limit of 56 ounces, right?
Overall weight of 50, I think it was like 54 ounces or 56 or something. It was basically heavy enough to where nothing would get pushed out. Not even that Sphinx.
Well, you'd have to drop a barrel on a brick or 2 bricks.
Okay.
But anyway, so back to that.
Well, like, just tell me like a story. Like, I don't really know. All I know was kind of there's some friction on the board. There's these kind of tense board meetings going on in 2014, and the result is Area 1 director resign, Area 6 director resign, right? That's all I know. So, like, I'm trying to just get a sense for what was going on.
Basically, what had happened is the board was a bit. The board was certainly polarized. There were a group of board members who were kind of rallying behind the executive director, and there were others that had no faith in her, who wanted her out, and some wanted me out. But it just turned out that the only two that really wanted her out, and when a motion was made to put her out, the other board members didn't see it that way, and they voted to keep her in. And
so this was rage quitting over getting rid of the executive director.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so so kind of the pro Phil, pro Kim camp on the board kept things moving in that direction.
Well, I don't want to say the other side of the board wasn't necessarily pro Phil or pro Kim. They were just not. They were not agreeing with the. How can I put this? There was a ferocity to their need to get rid of Kim. I mean, the rest of the board didn't see that. Now, obviously, Kim's not perfect. She made mistakes. She knows that. She owned up to them, and she got basically in a position where she was supposed to be nuzzled into that position by the outgoing executive director, and it didn't happen. So she knew she was going to make mistakes, and she did. But the rest of the board didn't feel like those mistakes warranted having her removed. Now, whether or not that rest of the board is pro Kim or against Kim,
right?
Yeah, I didn't look at it that way. The way I looked at it is an unreasonable motion was made, and the rest of the board also felt it was unreasonable, and that was it. I mean, it was pretty much game on at that point. And when they resigned, it was just we weren't personal. It was like, man, we're sorry to see you go, and I still talk to Jay to this day. Now, Chuck won't talk to me at matches, which, be that as it may. But Jay and I, last time we saw each other on the range, we talked, and he's cordial, and I'm cordial to him. I have for me, none of this is personal, not ever.
All right.
I don't do personal at all.
Just to give sort of listeners an idea, like I'm not reading this to be disrespectful to you, Phil, but I want to read just a couple sentences of something that Chuck posted online just today.
Okay.
Phil and Kim both think they're doing really solid jobs getting stuff done. I'm betting anything he says will be filtered through those rose-colored glasses. Any shortcomings on their parts are only because of evil asshole ADs like A1, current and previous, and Jay Corn. Without these dicks, everything will be moving along nice and smooth. I mean, this is the tenor of his posts for like a year. I mean, it doesn't surprise me he's not talking to you, to be honest. I just don't. I mean, it makes sense as you describe it, where it's kind of like it comes down to we're going to get rid of the executive director, and that was Chuck, yes, pushing that.
I can't remember who made the motion. It was one or the other. And
then that didn't happen, and Chuck's like, I'm out. Just drops the mic and he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would never take the position that the board never got anywhere because of Chuck or Jay. I would never take that stance. Chuck and Jay were, and they like to, they like to refer to them. They did actually. There was a lot of references to whistleblowing, the whistleblowers of the board, and
well,
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. The funny thing is they brought up a lot of good stuff. I mean, it's not like they were just bringing up stuff that didn't need to be addressed. It wasn't that. I mean, the things that they brought up, the issues they brought up, things that came to light. Now, some of these things came to light when angry people at HQ quit because they didn't like Kim or whatever the case may be. Or I mean, there were things brought up that were brought to their attention or brought to other people's attention, but it's not like the things they were doing were bad. It's just the way that they were being executed through the board were not acceptable, in my opinion. Some of the stuff that was posted, in my opinion, here's the thing. This is how I look at it. If you're an elected board member, if you are elected to a position of leadership within an organization, when you post publicly, when you address people outside or potentially outside of your organization, there has to be some sort of filter there. There has to be some sort of okay, when I'm posting this, am I posting this as a board member, or am I posting this as an emotional being who wants a certain thing done with an agenda? And I think sometimes when some of these things or some of these statements or some of these posts or some of these motions were being made, it was done emotionally as much as it was done for what they see as the good of the organization, in my opinion.
Well, so I think what you're saying is, so if I was to go post like, hey, I made a motion to get this done in the board meeting, and the board didn't like the 56-ounce weight limit, and it got voted down. If I was to post that, that would be as a board member.
That's a board member. I mean,
right. And if I was to post Phil's standing in the way of progress, Phil's being an asshole.
You're not casting the organization, and you may feel that way. You may feel like, Phil's got an agenda. He's
of course I feel that way.
He's catering to these gun companies because he likes them more, and he hates CZ, and he hates Tanfo, and he hates these companies. And he's doing.
Would you shoot at nationals?
I got a Glock. That's all I had.
I rest my case.
That's all I had. I had a Glock. That's all I had. SIG actually sent me a 320, but they only sent me 2 magazines, and
that was good thinking on their part.
Well, I didn't
Max had. I bet you Max had some
mags, but no, I mean, look, we can go down the negative roads all day long, but
no, I'm just trying to get a sense of what the hell happened on the board, because I feel like, this is people online on my forum, of course. They're whipped up into a frenzy about this stuff, and there's very little firsthand knowledge of what's going on, right? And that's just what I'm trying to get at. Kind of get your take on it, get your sense of it, because
I think a lot of people they take for granted the amount of work that's involved, especially in Kim's position, and an executive director position. There's a lot of intricacies to that position, and a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces that people don't give her credit for. I mean, she is an extraordinarily busy person, and she has been cast in a negative light on certain things, and she has, for the most part, she's come out, on top of them and said, "Here's what happened," and she's put things in light. She's not trying to hide anything. I mean, I've never seen her or any member of the board really be in a position where they're trying to hide anything. And if they are, they're doing a hell of a good job pulling the wool over my eyes.
So is there a good relationship between the executive director and the board at this point?
Yeah,
with all this going on?
She was concerned at first because, Bruce is on the board, Bruce Geary, and he's a very smart guy. He's
I will say this, Phil, he's the most communicative guy.
Yes.
He posts a lot, and it's nothing crazy. It's just like, hey, this is what we're talking about. These are all the issues. There
was some stuff that he posted recently that was, in my opinion, it was a little too much. And and I told him about it. I said, look, man, I think that was a little over the line. And I know, Bruce is a smart guy, and I love having him on the board. He wants things done, and he's not. And his personality is, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, he likes for his decisions to be the decisions. He likes to have that control, and he likes people to listen to what he has to say. And most people do because he's so freaking smart. He's genius smart. But there have been some communication breakdowns between him and the executive director, and I mean he's tasking a lot of things on her, and when it should be the board tasking things on her, or actually where it should be the board having me task things on her, because she works for me and I work at the discretion of the board. There was a communication breakdown there, and it got kind of.
This actually kind of reminds me of some stuff I read. I'm pretty sure it was Jay Korn writing it, where he'd write something about Kim, of course, and say, well, she didn't comply with the request of the board to do this. But the way I'd read that and be kind of like, man, it feels to me like you yourself were asking her to do something or asking for this information.
Yeah.
And then now you're writing up the summary of what happened, and it says the board was asking her.
Typically, the last meeting we had, we were basically saying, look, Kim's overtasked as it is. She has to prioritize the things she has to get done between organizing nationals and dealing with the office, and these, just the list goes on and on. So at this point now, the board has pretty much unilaterally agreed to, look, okay, if we have these certain things we want done, we're going to send them to you. We're going to task you to get these done and give us a status report. And now Kim is doing a weekly report. Okay, here's what I did this week. Here's what I did this week. And kind of giving that to the board so there's better communication. Because there has been a lack of communication between Kim and the rest of the board. But then again, I mean, here's the thing. I can send out an email to all 8 board members. I might get 2 or 3 responses. And I'm not throwing any board members under the bus, but these are people with full-time jobs who do this as a volunteer. So Bruce is certainly one of the people that are most active in that, but I need 8 active board members. I just don't need Bruce, you know.
All right, this is great because this kind of brings me to something that Manny talked about when we had him on, and I want to ask another question too. So Manny suggested, as part of his bid for president, he'd like to see additional requirements for people to become board members. So he mentioned having some background in business or something. Do you feel like that's a good idea? Manny's been on the board also. So I wonder where that's coming from. If he thinks like maybe some board members aren't up to the task.
No, I think where it's coming from personally, and I don't know. I haven't talked to Manny since. Hell, I don't remember when I talked to Manny last. But I think Manny's concern is a genuine concern, and this is me talking again. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but the main concern for the president, who basically steers the organization. He's in charge of the board, or he's the overseer of the board. The biggest thing that makes me nervous, or any other person who serves as president nervous, is the potential to have a board member come in who's a complete retard. That has no idea what's going on, has hidden agendas and that kind of thing. Because it only takes a couple or 1 or 2 board members to really screw things up. And I will say this, the board we have on there right now is a very solid group of people. We don't have a lot of, there's not a whole lot of tension among the group. There was a little bit at first, but now the board is solid. They're very focused. And there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes people don't know about that we are moving forward with, like the new database, the new website, these kind of things. This time next year, people are going to be looking at this thing, looking at the website, looking at our database, looking at our new Steel Challenge classification system, and you know what they're going to say? Man, President X is a damn genius. We should have had him there the whole 4 years, because that's kind of how it works. All the work that we've been doing is going to come to fruition as soon as I get the hell out of office, and that's going to be perfect. But at least for the guy coming in. But there's been a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and I think the biggest concern Manny would have would be all these things happen, everything gets put into place, we finally start moving forward, and all of a sudden, what happens if someone gets elected, comes in and sabotages the board? It only takes 1 or 2 bad board members, or 2 board members who don't make an effort. Sometimes I don't want to say a bad board member is someone who, like Jay or Chuck or Bruce, who just emails and posts and whistleblows and does all that thing. A bad board member can be a member that you never hear from. Someone who doesn't make an effort, who doesn't call, doesn't vote, or doesn't get feedback from members. That's the worst board member you can have. So I think there's concern there that
it's a legitimate concern on Manny's part, getting a retard board member.
What is an election? What is an election?
It's popularity contest.
We're trying to
popularity contest. That's what it is. All elections are presidential elections. The real presidential elections, they're a popularity contest, or they're board, they're party specific voting.
He who gives out the most pens wins.
And that's what it is. And that's my biggest fear. And I've said this publicly. I am scared to death. Thank God this upcoming presidential election, we have some good people running. But I'm scared to death that one day we're just going to have 2 asshats running against each other. And, and what are we going to be stuck with? We're going to be stuck with worse or worser.
It'll be like a real election.
Right. It'll be like freaking presidential election for real. So that scares the hell out of me. But that's what you have to deal with. If you're going to continue to publicly elect your leadership, then you have to deal with agendas. You have to deal with lack of impartiality, which is a concern, and you have to deal with turnaround. There's a huge amount of turnaround that can happen. It's a concern for everyone. It should be. It is for me. If they want to run like a business, hire a CEO, hire a CFO, and hire a board.
Well, that's actually was going to be the next question. So you alluded to it earlier that the board members, it seems to me, have a lot of work kind of thrust on them. I mean, they're a flooded email inbox, meetings they have to attend, stuff they have to read and be informed on, and they can't ever shoot a match again with somebody coming up to them and complaining about whatever, about carry optics or whatever it is. I mean, that's the truth. It's not awesome to be a board member. I know that I've never gone to Area 3 and not talked to Sherwin about board business, even if it's for only like 15 seconds. It's never happened. As an example. So, I mean, that's probably not a lot of fun. So, is it time to compensate the board members on some level to kind of ease the pain? Or like, the organization's grown a lot, like you said. There's a lot of issues. At what point do they have to start paying board members? Or restructure it somehow?
That's a good question. I mean, anytime you introduce money into a leadership / elected position, then if the money becomes more important than the what you're doing, I mean, your commitment to the sport, then you run into that issue where you got to question. Sometimes you might question the motivation to run. You know, and the thing is, it wouldn't be a lot of money if it were paid that way. But typically, I mean, your board members on a nonprofit are typically not paid anyway. But with the amount of work that a board member does, or the amount of extra stuff they have to do, or they have to deal with, like you said, shooting a match, that's a pain in the butt for those who do shoot. I mean, trust me, I know. I don't go to a match ever without getting flogged.
Yes, I'm sure.
So, but yeah, I don't see where that wouldn't be an issue. I mean, it's just a matter of budgeting and how much is it going to be. I mean, how much is that kind of time worth, that kind of pressure worth? Because it's not, you know, all unicorns and rainbows at these meetings. You know, a lot of stress sometimes.
Do you think USPSA should be changed into a for-profit organization?
You know, we actually brought that up. I mean, just in passing at the meeting, we didn't really didn't put it in the minutes. It was just kind of a talk about it offline. But I don't know. There's a lot of perks to being a nonprofit, tax purposes and that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that question. I mean, I don't know if changing from a profit to a nonprofit would change the face of the sport to where people want it to go. I don't know if it would make a huge difference or not. Now, structuring the board in a different way, or you know, not having elected board members, that may change things a bit. I don't know. You know, I can see what you're looking at in the reflection of your glasses on your screen.
No, you can't.
Hopefully, you're not looking at anything bad.
Make sure not.
My sunburn. I rode my motorcycle today and I got burned.
You look a little red, but not too bad.
All right, good. Just checking.
All right, Hopkins, I'm sure you want to talk about carry optics.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's the most talked about thing in the recent months of USPSA, right?
Yeah, it's been.
The question always comes up is why the weight limit?
The weight limit was something I proposed just because, you know, we've heard all the arguments about production and the spirit of the division and that kind of thing. The whole point of the division was this. This was the spirit of production, to have a carry, affordable kind of gun. Well, we know where that went. It kind of went down the rabbit hole, and we're not exactly where we used to be. And I knew that a weight limit would be a very limiting factor in keeping with that spirit of carry optics. That's why I didn't want to call it production optics, because it is literally a different division. It's a division that's specifically set up for lightweight carry type guns that would be theoretically carried inside the waistband holster or a holster or something that could be comfortably carried. And that's kind of the way I went. It wasn't because certain companies made certain guns. I researched the hell out of that. I looked at almost every gun company that I knew of and looked at their weight limits on their guns, and everyone was below the 35 ounces. It was going to be 34, but then I found one It was heavy. I think it was like an FNX or some crap like that, or some gun that no one will ever use in carry optics. But I just wanted to be safe to know that, if you have a polymer firearm that is kind of built for carry and you want to put an optic on it, you can play. I looked at the Springfield XD M40, which is one of the heavier ones in the group. I looked at all the standard weights for the Core 9L and the whatever the M&P or the Glock 35. What do they call that one?
The 34 MOS.
MOS, right?
Yeah.
Looked at CZs, saw the weights on the PO7s, PO9s. I've actually seen some really sweet looking PO9s online already with the optics on them. They're well under weights. The 320s. There was talk from Springfield that they were going to make a optic ready model. There's talk from SIG that they were looking to make an optic ready model. It was just kind of a trend that they were going. Now, and I will say this on the record, I initially was absolutely against production optics. When people started emailing, and they called it production optics back in the day, back when they started doing it. When they started emailing me, when members started emailing me, hey, I want to put a red dot on my production gun. First thing out of my mouth was, yeah, we have that division already. It's called open. Have fun. Knock yourself out. I am not one for watering down the sport. I like a pure sport, and the more divisions makes my skin itch. I don't like it. I never have. I've always been that guy who wants to keep it simple. And as I started, hold on. As I started going down the road of demos, I got invited to a demo out at the Trigicons range out in Fredericksburg. They had a whole huge demo for ADS set up for the viability of carry guns with optics. And I started seeing more magazine articles with these optic guns in them. I just kind of saw it as a trend going and thought, first thing I thought of was, this whole tactical market of, dots on carry guns, and law enforcement agencies were even talking about it. The trend is getting too big to ignore at that point. And I knew that there were going to be other shooting sports, namely probably IDPA, that were going to think, shit, we ought to do that. People are carrying these guns, or they're talking about carrying these guns. Why not have some sort of optics division? And I kind of wanted, for the longest time, USPSA has been kind of a reactionary, organization. We kind of just react to things that happen, and this is finally a chance for us to be proactive and be the first organization to kind of recognize this trend. And every single one of those, every demo I went to, every gun I've ever seen in an advertisement was always a carry type pistol, and I knew what they weighed, and that was kind of the direction I went with the weight. I mean, it was contrary to popular belief, it was not to keep any guns out. It was just to kind of keep the playing field level and to keep it consistent. That was the only reason, and to follow the trends of a carry gun without an optic on.
Now, you've stated this is a baseline to see how the division goes. Where do you think it should go after this? Like, if it is successful, how would you determine it's successful also?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. That's kind of a tricky question, because the board on the next in-person board meeting, the board is going to take the data from matches that have been shot with carry optics and evaluate it to see if it has growth trends and if it's a viable division to stay along. Well, here's the thing: how many carry optic shooters do we have now? So it's going to grow. There's going to be more carry optic shooters than there were before, because there wasn't a damn division. So what do? Do we base that on revolver statistics, L10 statistics? Because I've seen major matches that had 3 L10 shooters. So if we have 5 carry optics, is that successful?
That's not uncommon to have.
Right. So there's no. I don't see personally. I don't see a way it could fail, because if you have 10 people on average shooting carry optics at club matches, or 12 on average at big matches, level 2s or whatever the case may be, once that's legal, I mean, how do you consider that not a success? People are shooting it more than they are other divisions, and how
you would consider L10 a failure, yes?
I would consider L10 a band-aid for a problem that went away. L10 was brought up when the Brady Bill was brought up.
Right, so but as a division like that, I mean, just in terms of attendance.
Numbers, yeah, if you go by sheer numbers, besides a I mean, L10 Nationals, you're going to have 150 people shooting.
Right, chasing a title.
Right. Well, and they also don't shoot open. I mean, if you shot one another, you'd shoot L10. So you'll get more people at L10, but you can't use that as a measuring stick, because how many people are at Revolver Nationals? That match has filled up 2 years in a row. So.
Yeah, but nobody shoots a revolver really outside of Nationals.
Right. Exactly. So, as far as the overall numbers and USPSA business terms, in terms of mission count, yeah, L10. If it went away tomorrow, it would not affect USPSA's budgetary concerns at all. Now, here's the thing, there would be 100 emails in my emails in my inbox just crucifying me, because shooter mentality, and you guys know this as well as I do.
You're taking something
Anytime you take something away from a shooter, even if it's Division 8, have no inkling of any kind of intent on ever shooting, they're going to bitch about it because he's taking stuff away from us. And I guarantee of all the people that just lit me up on Facebook and the internet and all those people who just bitched about carry optics, I wonder what the percentage of those people who are going to be who are going to drop their production guns and start shooting carry optics exclusively.
I know of one.
I don't see it as a huge number. Just,
yeah.
Let me tell you this. You're a lame duck now. You're in a position you can get rid of L10 and people can send you all the angry emails they want.
Yeah,
who cares?
That's true. But I want to leave my legacy as someone who brought something new to the table, not the guy who took something away.
Well, you're taking away L10. That's kind of like taking the kind of weird smell out of the porta potty, right? I mean, it doesn't really add anything.
That's pretty funny. No weird smell. Look, my feelings would not be hurt if L10 went away. It's not my decision; it's the board's decision. But
I'm kind of sensing it's not worth the heat to you.
No, I don't. It's not about that. I've gone on record saying, "Hey, if L10 went away, I don't mind." But it's not, like I said, it's not up to me. I can put it on every agenda for every meeting for the rest of the year if I wanted to. But
okay, now we got a plan. Now we're cooking with gas.
Just commit to that.
I'll have that and the maximum weight limit for production. I'll do a monthly board meeting from here on out. But no, I don't want. If the board wants it, then they will come to me with their concerns, and they will come to me with the idea of an agenda item. But if I don't want to go down the road of shoving it down their throat and almost forcing them into making a vote that they're not comfortable with. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy.
Well, it seems to me just.
I don't feel passionately enough about it. I don't think L10 is just detracting enough from USPSA for me to take a stance that says, well, it's going to be this way for the rest of my term, and that's going to be my platform. My platform is to.
Well, honestly, Phil, carry optics is a lot more palatable to someone like me who doesn't give a shit about carry optics or L10. If we kind of look at the numbers and we say, well, L10, nobody shoots it, so, well, why don't we just kind of swap that out and try another division for like 5 years? Call it whatever the hell you want. It can be laser gun division. I don't care. Try whatever, and try that. And if people want to shoot that and it becomes well attended in like a few years, then keep it around.
Right.
That seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but I just feel like the board as a whole is gun shy about pulling the trigger on that, and I kind of understand why. Nobody wants that inbox flooded with the same 12 people sending email after email after email. But there will be a lot higher comfort level knowing that if carry optics takes off and does well, then that'll be kind of the hanging chad that can be voted out easier. Right now, getting rid of it prematurely before we know where carry optics is going, it's a reckless move that no board member is going to want to make.
What do you think needs to be changed on carry optics if it's successful? You talked about concealed carry. The holster restrictions on it are pretty restrictive and don't allow the inside the waistband appendix carry. Can you see that changing?
Probably not. Just from an outsider looking in, here's the thing. I don't want to go too far down that carry restriction. You know what I mean? I don't want it to turn into a defensive thing. We're still a shooting sport. We're simply answering the trends of a growing fad, or whatever we're going to call it, the slide mounted optic thing. But if we start going down that road of letting people carry, appendix carry, one, I'm not comfortable ROing that, because I don't want someone shooting their dick off as an RO, because that's going to happen. I've freaking seen it happen. I've not seen the dick shot, but I've seen people shoot themselves on appendix carry because they're not drawing correctly. So from a liability standpoint, I don't know, man. That's a tough thing. If the big change I see making with carry optics isn't so necessarily the holster equipment, because we'll keep that kind of a non-race holster, mentality. But for me, the biggest change I see would be probably the weight limit. I mean, if more companies get in kind of in line with the carry optics, man, this thing's really taken off. We want to put these optics on all of our guns, and that at that point we kind of have to answer. Like, we start seeing, CZ SPO1s with offered from the factory with dots on them because people are carrying them, which I don't know if a lot of people carry a CZ SPO1 shadow or whatever, but that might be a way we would go. I don't know. I really did try to think of everything when I put the appendix together. I tried to. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Chuck Anderson emailed me the other day about something that probably needs to be looked at, and it's I guess some people install a rear sight in front of their optic. I don't know. I guess that can be interpreted a different way, or Troy could make a rule interpretation, but I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. It'll be interesting to see. I think that the industry will kind of trend us in the direction it needs to move. I hope. I mean, God, if I'm right, I'm a hero. You guys make statues of me and bronze me, and Ben can put me on his desk right there next to his computer.
Why would I not?
You're only human.
I got a couple questions still.
Okay.
What do you think the biggest hindrance to growth in USPSA is?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of options out there. I think honestly the biggest hindrance is we're not marketing USPSA in the places where people who shoot a lot and enjoy shooting would be interested in it. Like, local gun clubs, local gun ranges. I used to have USPSA flyers in Shooter's Paradise when I owned it. I had them everywhere. And I didn't get as much traction out of those that I usually did, but I gave out I actually made it. I've got it somewhere in here. But for work, I made a USPSA flyer, like a handmade before the days. Here it is. I put this together. You see that? And this was back in the days when there were no computers were shitty. I actually took these and cut them out and taped them and then copied this. That's an original copy, and you can see the freaking black on the screen. It's horrible, but I actually wrote about USPSA and IPSC, and look, those are the divisions back in the day, open and limited. That's all there was. But I actually did it like an introduction to IPSC shooting. It's just IPSC. I don't know why I put that instead of USPSA, but I wrote that up and I'd send it out to. I'd like go to like police combat matches, and they used to do these Top Gun matches, tactical stuff, and I'd pass them around on there, and I got more interested in that than I did anything. I think USPSA needs to do a lot more cross-pollination between the sports. Right now we've got the whole USPSA versus IDPA thing going on, but
how does that help? I wonder how that helps IDPA to partner with USPSA to market, because
I don't think it does.
Yeah, if you look at both, you'd be like, well, that one's cooler, obviously. Yeah. It's like, I want to shoot the one where the guy's not screaming cover at me and holding up his fingers.
Yeah, I don't think it helps IDPA, and
but are they smart enough to realize that?
They are. I mean, they've kept a comfortable distance. I would not be surprised if I start hearing from Joyce with questions about carry optics, because I know that's the direction they kind of are looking to go. I've heard. And Joyce and I get along great, and I've always been available for her to bounce ideas off of me if she ever asked me to. But you're right. I mean, it's not a viable option for them to kind of do business with us. But something like the NRA, their action pistol programs, they have a lot of different. You know, they've partnered a lot with 3-Gun now. They're doing that NRA World Shooting Championship. They're crossed up with a lot of different things, but I don't know. It's I still would like to see us have a much bigger presence in shooting ranges, because it can make a difference. But typically, those people don't. They just stand there and shoot, and they're totally happy to do it. They'll buy a box of ammo and they'll stand in a line and they'll just shoot round after round after round and be happy.
All right, Phil. I don't want to take up your whole night, but there's a couple more issues I want to ask about because, you know, they're interesting. You brought up one of them, 3-Gun. I think if you're asking me, I personally feel like USPSA missed the boat on 3-Gun, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that in USPSA. But I feel like the boat was missed a long time ago, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to add, it wasn't in the last 4 years that it was missed. It was missed way before that.
Well, it was an overlooked sport. It was. I mean, here's the thing. Besides the outlaw matches like the Soldier of Fortune, 3-Gun match, I'm dating myself a little bit here. There was basically the USPSA Nationals was kind of the only USPSA 3-Gun event there was, and it wasn't done like 3-Gun. It was you shoot a stage with rifle, you shoot a stage with shotgun, you shoot a stage with pistol. That was it. There was no multi-gun format. You're right. The boat was missed on that a long time ago. And the thing is, the only shooting organization that had the horsepower to actually put any muscle behind it was us, because the NRA didn't want it. They didn't want to touch it. You know, IDPA, they had no interest in it. So you basically had a pistol organization trying to put together 3-Gun rules and 3-Gun shooting and that kind of thing, and it just didn't go anywhere. And then finally, other people did the same thing with a lot of other matches. Especially Steel Challenge. That's been bastardized to the point where we don't even know what it is anymore. But these people are running 3-Gun matches, and they're like, you know what? I don't like the rules here. I'd like to be able to shoot all kinds of guns. And they just started doing their outlaw things, and that's when the outlaw matches started coming to fruition. You know, you had Rocky Mountain, and you had Fallen Brethren, Fort Benning, and BPMS Tri-Gun, and you had all these other outlaw matches, and these were 3-Gunners who were putting together, 3-Gun matches, and they were actually building it the way they wanted. It'd be similar, and they did it right. And then 3-Gun Nation started getting, into the mix, and they started realizing, hey, we just surround ourselves with all 3-Gun shooters, and they know exactly what they want, they know exactly what people want to see, and they went from there. Where we were just a pistol organization trying to piece everything together, and it never worked. And when 3-Gun Nation got up, they just had a bunch of 3-Gunners behind them. I mean, the same thing I kind of put it in the same realm as what would have happened if, and I'm not jabbing fun at anyone intentionally, but what would have happened if a bunch of IDPA shooters tried to revitalize the Pro-Am?
Who the hell knows? Nobody would show up.
That match is successful because it's a pistol match, and a pistol shooter who knows what people want in a match put it together, and that's me, in case those people don't know what it is. And that's what happened. It was run the way I wanted. And, I kind of regret, to a certain extent, selling it, because I feel like it could have been bigger. I feel like it could have been a Pro-Am series of matches and that kind of thing. But
that's what it's getting turned into, sort of. I mean, Dave's working on it.
Dave is not associated with that.
It's not associated anymore. So it's,
oh, what?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, but you get the idea. I mean, when a bunch of pistol guys get together and try to put together a new format, and then other people see that they can do it better, it's going to kind of trend towards the people who can think they can do it better. Plus, it didn't hurt that there were 6 big 3-Gun matches at some point, at one point. In the 2002s to 2005s, there were 6 big 3-Gun matches. And so all the sponsors, all these countless rifle sponsors and shotgun and pistols, they had 6 matches to dump everything into. So not only were these matches being run by 3-Gunners, but they were walking out of there with $200,000 prize tables. So that got some attention really quick. Now I've made this prediction in the past, and I wish no ill will towards any other shooting organizations, but I am firmly under the belief that last year, 3-gun was in the exact same position that USPSA was in the mid-90s. In the mid-90s, there was Nationals, Bianchi, Steel Challenge, Area 1 through 8, and Florida Invitational, Pistol Tournament, and the Aware Invitational. And I think
the Florida Invitational? This is
Yeah.
way before my time. Is that why the Florida Open is so named? Is that it?
No, it was totally separate. Well, they actually did the FIPT. No, they didn't. They did it. And then they did the Miller Invitational, the Miller Classic. And those are the big matches. So people just poured their money into those matches, and the prize tables were amazing. My first Nationals in '98, I finished 73rd and won a gun, for Christ's sake. So it was bigger back then. And then pistol tournaments became more popular. USPSA became more popular. And the sponsors kept putting more and more into it, but they were like, instead of 12 big matches a year, now there's 112. So I think 3-gun is going that same route, and there always will be a few big vendor-specific matches. Like the FN 3-gun match is always going to have a big prize table because there's going to be a shitload of FNs on the table. Be no different if Benelli started putting on a 3-gun match. There'll be a lot of Benellis on the table. But all in all, 3-gun tables are not where they used to be not because the sponsors are giving less. It's just there's so many freaking matches now. They're having a hard time keeping up. So, I called it, and we'll see if I'm right. But by this time next year, there might be another thinning of the herd as far as the matches go. I said, well, shit, we're only going to shoot these matches because we know they're awesome.
All right. The next thing I want to talk about is practice scores. So we interviewed Ken Nelson, which it hasn't aired yet. Nobody's heard it. But Ken, and kind of one of the questions I put to him was, so if I go to a match, right now the scores are like, are they on practice score? Are they on USPSA? What the fuck is going on with the scores? And are we ever going to get to a place where the scores just populate from practice score onto the USPSA website? Is that some functionality being built into the new USPSA site? Or, these are the kind of issues I was thinking about. What's your take on that? With kind of practice scores kind of taken over for USPSA scoring.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like it's really that well integrated, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, there's trust me, I hope it does. But here's the thing: is I don't understand the whole click count internet. How to monetize your site and that kind of thing. I don't understand any of that stuff, but Ken does, and God bless him. The guy's super smart. And he came up with a great scoring program, and everyone uses it, or a lot of people use it. But the biggest concern for me is that information, and this is a point of contention, once that information belongs to USPSA. These are USPSA members shooting affiliated USPSA matches, and that was one of the big things for us. Is like, look, we got to get these scores onto our website, and you want to put them on practice score. That's great. Use the scores for your website, but there's got to be some sort of automatic upload on the USPSA site, because quite frankly, nothing against Ken or his program, but I go on practice score to check results, and Jesus, I can't find them. The matches are just countless matches. You just go into one day of uploads, and there's a gazillion matches. So I don't know. I'd like to see a more end-user friendly interface between practice score and USPSA. With this new database we're building, USPSA.org is going to be a much more user-friendly site, and it would only behoove us to ensure that we get that download onto it. There's been even scuttlebutt about USPSA coming out with its own electronic scoring program. But the thing is, practice score has been integrated so much on the club level that there's no getting away from it. He's cornered the market in relatively affordable match management.
So do you feel like these issues are going to get resolved at some point?
They will. Ken's reasonable. Ken is about Ken. He's not going to do anything that's going to he's not going to do anything to neglect his own agenda, which is to make money. That's what this is. I mean, it's sports. It's free to a certain extent. I mean, you can use practice score and that kind of thing, but he's a businessman. He's not. He didn't get where he is for not being a businessman.
Well, when we talked to him, it sounded like practice score is a money-losing venture.
Okay.
Is that
I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it, and it might be. I don't know. For me, it's simple. I just want to make sure that if Ken and 2 of his programmers are run over by a city bus, that we don't fall apart. And that's my biggest concern. Is I want to make sure that the results that we are using at these club matches is at some point going to end up on our new website. And I've seen screenshots from the new site, and it's awesome. I mean, it looks really amazing. I'm really happy with it. And we're hoping for a launch. I've been begging for a launch to happen before I'm no longer president, so I can at least say, hey, we started it. So the next guy doesn't get all the credit. But anyway, I don't know. I got to think that there's some sort of end game. I mean, I can't imagine Ken would take his ball and go home. He's a bigger guy than that, and he's not looking to ruin USPSA. I don't think. I'm sure something will get worked out.
Okay. Finally, we can wrap this up with the election. Do you care to handicap that for us? Who do you see winning this thing?
I don't know.
As a note, when will this air been?
This will be on the regular schedule, so towards the end of August, I think.
Okay.
So this will air with like 5 days left.
I think it's like every election; it's a popularity contest. So, what I predict you will see something very similar to what you saw when Voight, myself, Jerry Westcott, and Alan Meeks ran against Alan Meek. I can't.
So you're saying it's going to be Paul Hyland in a runaway?
I am not saying that. I think it'll come down. Honestly, I think it'll come down between Manny and Mike in a runoff. I just don't know. I mean, he's got board experience, but everyone is scared to death that if Manny gets elected president, that every nationals is going to be at the Universal Shooting Academy, which is retarded because that's a conflict of interest he has to disclose. With that being a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's one that everybody knows about.
Yeah. So everyone knows it. So he, as president, he just can't dictate where the Nationals is going to be. Now it's going to have to be if he wants the Nationals to be at Florida Open, it's going to be up to the board now, not to the president. But if he wants to move it to whatever, what's it, a South River or
SRGC.
Whatever. But if he ever wants to have a Nationals in Florida Open, now he gets it. They get it. They get it in 2016 because it was a 2-year contract that I signed for 15 or 16. So that's what's really going to hurt him if he gets elected, and all of a sudden, boom, the next Nationals is in Universal Shooting Academy. He's going to get crucified because they're going to think he did that. But that's an unreasonable concern. But I think it'll come down to Manny, Mike, and Mike. I think he's a solid guy. He's pretty sharp. Manny's got board experience. He's very popular. So. So I don't think either one of them will do a bad job. I think USPSA will carry on no matter what happens, but I just can't wait to just be a shooter.
So, no matter who gets elected, would you have a message for that dude?
What piece of advice would you give him?
The biggest piece of advice I would give the new president would be to be patient. Don't feel like you have to prioritize every single message and email and text and Facebook message and everything all at once, because it's not going to happen. And whatever happens, whoever gets elected, remember USPSA is a concern. You got to get rid of any agenda, any backdoor deals. Nothing matters except USPSA. Your goal when you get in, your goal when you get out as the president of USPSA is to leave the organization in better shape than when you got there, which means higher membership, more admission counts, more clubs, a better website. God help me. hope.
Come on,
Yeah.
Phil. We need a better website.
Man. But no, I think I just want them to do what's best for USPSA. Keep the organization in mind, and try to keep personal stuff out of it.
Well, there you have it. Hopkins, do you have any other questions? You're pretty well tapped. We've kept Phil for we kept it for a while.
I don't have
do
anything
that
else.
for him.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, Phil, I think you coming on was great because so many people love to take a shit on you online, and it's nice to hear sort of the other side of the story.
Well, it's my pleasure. And there's always going to be mudslinging on the internet. The way it was explained to me is
That's what the internet's for.
right. People who are satisfied have nothing to post about. It's just people who want to bitch. They're always going to post. And when 20 people post 100 times each, it's going to look like a lot of shit going on. So, I don't get upset about it. It rolls off my back. I can take it. But my big concern is look where USPSA was when I came in. Look where it is now that I'm out. And if people think it's in worse shape, then there's other shooting sports they can go try. They can get cover calls and. Oh, and I'm not beating up IDP. I will officially say that I tell the good shooters who want to be great, go shoot IDPA because there's so much shit going on there. You got to think about so many different things. You'll never be confused at a USPSA match.
Is that how you won nationals this year, Phil? When you were training up in IDPA?
Yeah, I shot my 24 rounds into the berm, and I was using cover the whole time.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Phil.